What's going on, everybody? It is TripleCrown24 back in the land of the living. I got home from the National yesterday, and after about an hour or so of unpacking, I pretty much went to bed and slept for the better part of 15 hours on and off. I've still just kind of lounged around most of the day, took care of a couple of things I needed to do, touch base with a few people, wrapping up some loose ends, and of course, how else can you wrap up the loose ends of the National without doing a national recap video? There's going to be a lot of them posted today. There are already a lot posted today. I'm a little late to the party, but I wanted to give my perspective on the show just because it's probably different than a lot of others that you may watch just based on what I'm doing. I want to just talk about my experience interacting with dealers on the show floor. I want to talk about hanging out with some friends, talk about the cards I picked up, talk about the cards I sold, what kind of went on before the show, during the show, after the show. There's just so much to put into this, and the runtime on this video is going to be standard Triple Crown 24 length. Let's just go ahead and put it up there. I think Vegas has set the over under at 48 and a half minutes. So let's see how we do. Overall, let me just summarize the National. Was this the best National ever? I hear that a lot. Like, people will say, like, oh, this was the best show ever, or it seems like every year it's the best show ever. For me, I don't like to say that. And here's the reason why. It's not because it was worse than any other previous National, but for me, they're all different. And I don't know if a lot of you out there feel the same way, but I've been to 4 now, and each one was different. And in 2019, it was my rookie National. And a lot of it was meeting a lot of the people who I'm glad to call friends. In fact, they're some of my best friends today in person for the first time. And the hobby, of course, pre-COVID was in a much different place. You're seeing some elements of a boom, I think, start to appear in 2019, but overall it was a much different environment. And I wasn't selling cards full time yet. That would not come until about 4 months later, really, where I decided to fully commit full time. And I was just going to pick up from my collection then. And I ended up picking up what became the centerpiece of my collection at the time as well. Probably be a lot of pauses for water in today's video, so apologies for that. 2021, of course, now we're on the other side of what was 2020. And back in Chicago, things are a lot different. Prices are a lot higher than, of course, 2 years prior. And that was just a phenomenal time. I was doing a little bit of both, buying as for my collection and then buying as a dealer. And that one was tough to manage, but I had a great time with that for different reasons, as I did for the following year in Atlantic City, where that was my first time only going as a dealer, trying to pick up inventory. And I kind of came away with 6 really big cards that kind of encapsulated my entire week. And I would say were the central points of the week. And of course, just hanging out with friends and all that in a new city, even though Atlantic City wasn't the best venue. And then this year was different in the sense that what I was doing in terms of my dealings was different. What I was approaching, I didn't feel as much of a need to go out and buy the big splashy cards. Now, I did end up buying 2 and subsequently sold those 2, but I was just wheeling and dealing left and right. And this show was the busiest National by far among the 4 that I've been to. Not just in terms of course, it was very heavily attended. I think every recap will definitely tell you that it was very packed and very crowded, especially once the general public started to get in on that Thursday and Friday. It was not easy to navigate the show floor at times and in certain areas. Generally speaking, though, I was busy because I'll give you an idea. I had brought stuff to sell, and I showed this multiple times. This was just my spreadsheet here of everything that I brought to sell. And if it's crossed out, that means I ended up moving. And I kind of had what I was into each of those cards there at. You can see my little scribbles of notes, or maybe I just put down a little number in reference to maybe something I needed to reference, or that was a dollar amount, whatever the case may be. Well, as I was buying and trading on the show floor, this was the rest of it. Let me try to get it in frame here. You can kind of see it, and everything that's crossed out here is all stuff that I ended up selling as well. And you see all the little scribbles of the dollar amounts and how things are changing. So if the madness of this sheet doesn't tell you how crazy it was, I don't know what to tell you, because I cannot really even put it into words of how insane this national was for me. And I think my roommates will attest to that I was pretty much going nonstop. And you hear athletes say they left it all out on the court or all out on the field. I left it all out on the show floor. I can very confidently say that I did not have much more in me to continue going. And I left on Saturday afternoon because I felt good about what I had accomplished, and I was exhausted, hence why I slept for so long last night into this morning. Why don't I show off the cards? And a big part of my national experience was the fact that I was trying to sell a lot of cards. On the Friday before the show, I met up with a good friend of mine here locally who I've met through just doing the show circuit in the Cincinnati area. And he had me take some pretty big football cards with him, a lot of Trevor Lawrence stuff, a couple of Joe Burrows, and then some Desmond Ritter stuff. So a couple of guys with more local interests, and of course Trevor Lawrence. It was 17 cards in total, and some pretty big boys. And out of the 17, I ended up moving 12 of the 17, which I was pleased with. We had a certain dollar amount that we kind of discussed beforehand of where he would like to be. And by all accounts, I would say it was a success in terms of where we ended up. The 5 that we brought back are 5 that we weren't too concerned about bringing back, just because they're arguably 5 of the best cards that went out. And then I was also able to use some of the proceeds to bring him back some inventory, and use the inventory that I bought for him to leverage deals for myself as well and get better deals on cards, which you'll see a little bit in my pickups. But selling his inventory was one of my favorite parts of the show, just because of the learning experience that I got from it. Most of you know I don't deal in the really high-end stuff too often. I tell people this, $20 to $500 a card is my sweet spot. And of course, I do a lot of value box stuff on eBay, but those $20 to $500 cards is where I feel the most comfortable with, because I feel that they are the most realistic to sell at a show. It's nice to have $1,000 cards, $2,000 cards, $3,000 cards. I've had them in my showcase before, and they mostly serve as eye candy rather than something that I realistically could move, especially around here. Chicago, at the National, you see so many crazy comic cards that are on the show floor, and there's even more crazier comic cards that are walking around in the Zion cases and the Pelican cases that are roaming the show floor as well. There's some people in there who are packing some serious cards with them as well. It's crazy that some of the best stuff on the show floor might not even be actually on the floor out for display. It might be in someone's case, which is kind of crazy to think about if you look at the videos of all the showcases. But this was a good experience because, like I said, I learned quite a bit, and I also was able to reaffirm a few of my own beliefs, and some of my own suspicions were proven true at this show interacting with dealers, and I was able to take some key takeaways from it. But before I talk about that, I want to show off the cards first, because if you're just interested in the cards, I've already been rambling here for 9 minutes. I want to get those posted here and then talk about my experiences at the show, and of course end it with talking about the people, because that's really the best part of it is the people. So the 5 cards that I brought back with me for him, this will give you kind of an idea of some of the stuff we're bringing. Desmond Ritter Ice Auto. This is PSA 1010. Population 2. Those are numbered to 15. This one is Population 1. Number 1010. This is the green. Number to 5. In the same vein as those. But a Trevor Lawrence. PSA 810. Number to 15. That one is 15 of 15. Trevor Lawrence green, PSA 8, number to 5. And then my personal favorite of the 5, Joe Burrow 2020 contenders, Printing plate auto, 1 of 1. The black plate variation. He's fine, don't worry. It's just a little calf injury. Joe Burrow fans, don't panic. And then, of course, the 12 upper cards that I already sold. Here were the cards that I was able to pick up for him. And again, it's mostly to get show inventory here. He kind of gave me a list of what he was looking for and about what percentages he wanted to be on it. And I did my best to accommodate that. And we talked about it on the phone after I made these deals. And he was able to get a better haul. So between the stuff that was moved there, stuff that we brought back in this stack here, I would say that my friend had probably a better national than a lot of the dealers on the show floor, I would say, just based on the totality of it all. That's a word I'm going to use a lot. You'll find out why later. But his lone raw card pickup here is this 2022 Contenders Coaches Ticket Auto. They've done these in the past. I think it's been a few years since they put them out, if I'm not mistaken. But it is a Zach Taylor, head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals, numbered 299. And then we've got these 3 were all in one deal with a 4th card that I ended up taking home. Joe Burrow, Prism Rookie. This is the red no huddle. This is numbered out of 50 and a fine 9. Another fine 9 here on the Calvin Ridley rated rookie. Purple Stars auto. These are numbered out of 50. I think that's the first year they did Purple Stars. And then a 2020 Orange Jay Jettas, numbered to 249, PSA 9. Separate deal on this one here. Joey B. Hyper, kind of building a little rainbow here. PSA 9, numbered to 175. This one was a 2-card deal. Little bread and butter card. Optic Hollow Burrow, rated rookie, PSA 9. Jamar Chase Donruss, Downtown from 2021 Donruss. And last but not least, this is the biggest card of the bunch. My favorite of the ones that he picked up. This again was in a bundle deal with stuff that I got for myself. Jamar Chase Ice Auto out of Optic, PSA 10. This is numbered out of 15. I'm a huge sucker for these blue ices, and they are gaining a lot of popularity right now. Understandably so. They are just beautiful cards. If you've got a player that you collect in those sets and they have a blue ice, go out and get it because they are just awesome. And in Optic, they're a little tougher. They're out of 15, but in Prism, they're numbered to 99, and it's well worth it for the ones out of 99. The ones out of 15 might be a little rough, but do your best and see if you can come away with one. It's adjusting my glasses here before I show off the stuff that I picked up. Here's my haul, and based on the sheet that I showed you, you might think that I've got a massive stack here. There's also my value box pickups as well, but this is it. This is the stuff that I'm bringing back with me. I ended up taking home, in terms of the cards that I brought with me to sell of my own cards, I decided not to use the funds at the show rather than to save them for a rainy day, just because I have something else coming up later on that I'm going to talk about at the end of the video that I'm very excited to announce. So stay tuned for that. But here were my pickups. I got a few YouTube custom cards that I already have in my YouTube binder. So thank you to everyone who gave me one of their customs that will go well in the binder. But outside of that, you guys already saw this one if you watched my Day Zero recap. I wanted to do recaps daily, but I figured it would just be easier to do it this way because I was moving so many things that I would pick up on the same day that it would largely become a video of me saying, hey, I bought this, but then I sold it. Or, hey, I bought this, but then I traded it for this and that. It would kind of look like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where they've got the big bulletin board in the background with like the pins on it and the marker showing everything. That's pretty much what my national recaps would have been in video form. So just parlay it all together into one final recap here. But yeah, I did hang on to this Jason Robertson. I do have this one here as a gift. I have another card that was a gift from my buddy Josh, rated rookie. I don't think I have that one. Oh yeah, here it is. Thought I put this one already away. But Steph Curry, 2019 Prism PSA 9. So thank you, Josh, for for that one there. You let me choose between a Kobe and a Curry. I went with Curry. So you guys let me know what you think. Well, who would you choose, Kobe or Curry? And then next up, another gift here from my buddy Michael, one of my roommates, Double X the Beast. He is a Shane McClanahan super collector, as anyone who's familiar with him will know. And he bought this case of 2021 Heritage High Number. We spent a good portion of one of the nights in the hotel room just ripping it open. It was fun. And this was probably the best auto we got from the case was Jonathan India. Of course, being here in Cincinnati, he gifted that one to me. So I greatly appreciate that from him. In terms of the stuff that I ended up buying, why don't we start off with this one? So this was a bundle deal. It's the last piece remaining from the bundle. I didn't really advertise this one just because it got to the point where a lot of the Bengals stuff or the red stuff that I was buying, people would end up buying from me at the trade nights, which I didn't have a problem with because I was making money on them, and ultimately that is the goal. So I'm not going to turn down turning what I would consider a respectable profit for a very short hold time. But at some point I needed to say, okay, I have to bring back a few things with me for my own showcases at shows and be able to kind of restock my inventory after having so much of it cleaned out during the first couple of days. And that's kind of what happened with a lot of the things you'll see here. But first one up, I would be remiss to not shout out my good buddy Shane over at Shoebox Legends on the Sander Bogarts out of 5 gold refractor from Heritage. I was just talking with Eric those back pages about this card. Or not this specific card, but just these gold refractors not that long ago. I saw a few on the show floor, but that was the only one that I thought was reasonably priced where I wanted to jump on it. I ended up doing that pretty early on. I think that was like a day one pickup or something. This stack here ended up being $70. I'm going to try to remember the prices. I have them written down on here, but again, there's so many scribbles on this thing that it's hard to look at it right now during the video and kind of remember where I'm at with it. First up, this whole lot was $70, like I said. Thomas Davis Flawless patch card out of 5. Poyer Warren. It's about as good as it gets these days. You never see game use stuff anymore. 2018 Flawless. Looks like a Pro Bowl patch here. I just thought that was kind of cool. Bundled it in with a few slabs. Since my buddy Mike, baseball collector, another one of my roommates, bought a $10 mantle slab, I decided that I would have to copy him, and I picked up my own mantle slab. This one was stickered at $15, but based on the bundled price, I estimate that I'm going to be into it around $10 there, maybe even $9. I'll just say I'm into it for $9 just to one up them. Just kidding. But here's a nice little white sparkle gem mint on the first year mosaic Tyrann Mathieu. Honey badger action there. And then I love this parallel. This is a set that I would consider putting together. They printed a ton of them, so this is by no means a difficult parallel to get, but one of my favorites, the 75th anniversary prism from 2021, Donovan Mitchell. Pretty popular seller here ever since the trade over to Cleveland. A lot of Cavs fans are down here in Cincinnati for basketball, so I try to pick up Mitchell stuff whenever I can. Now, Cincinnati does have a baseball team that is one of the hottest in baseball right now in terms of popularity. Playing-wise, they're a little rocky after the All-Star break, but I hope for their sake they can turn that around. And there's nobody hotter than this guy, Ellie De La Cruz, Spotlight's Aqua Refractor. This was actually one where I was taking a break on the show floor. I was sitting down. This guy came by looking to sell stuff or buy my own stuff. He had this card, so we struck a deal. This was either 100 or 120. I have it written down on my sheet, like I said, but I love these Spotlights. This one is technically the Aqua. You could have fooled me. It's just like very little Aqua, like right in here. Number to 125, but it was cool. I decided I would go ahead and go for it. These here were kind of like a big bundle deal. So they were 2 deals that happened pretty much simultaneously. And I would estimate that based on the cards that were transacted here and the cash that was transacted, altogether, I'm going to be into these 3 cards for around 480. I don't think that this is a smashing success in terms of a purchase, but I got 2 cards that I'm really thrilled about, and then 1 card that I'm also pretty satisfied with as well. So here's the one that I'm pretty satisfied with. And again, this is not a bad card. It's a Sauce Gardner, 2022 Defensive Rookie of the Year. Already considered to be one of the best corners in the league. Some people go as far as calling him the best, and I would say there's an argument for that. But a Purple Power Auto number 249. And I told you earlier I love my blue ice. How about this one here? Patty Mahomes, 2022 Prism Blue Ice. These are numbered out of 99. Nice gem mint 10. And of course, I had to go for my Bengals here. I'm a Lions fan, but I'm just so enamored by Bengals mania. But a Jamar Chase Blue Ice as well in a 10. Very pleased with those. Final day pickup here. This might have been a Friday pickup. Friday I didn't do too much. I was kind of taking it a bit easy because I felt like I had done most of the things I wanted to do on Friday. I was mostly trying to sell those last few consignment cards. This one, the proceeds were going towards charity. So, I mean, I paid what the last one sold for on this. And, I'll mark it up a little bit. I don't really mind keeping this one. It went to a good cause. And even if I lose something on it, again, it went to a good cause. So who cares? 2011 Topps Chrome Crystal Atomic Refractor. Shout out again to Shane Shoebox Legends because he recently completed his baseball set of this. Here you see number 2, 139. Well, now you'll see it, number 2, 139. Titans legend, Randy Moss on that one there. This one is just cool because of the story behind it. And I'm not going to tell the full story here, but this ended up being my final pickup of the show. And I got it in a bundle deal with my good buddy Eric over at Oakland A's 915. And he got a pretty big card that he was eyeing. Like I said, I was literally about to leave the show when I ran into him and we ended up making a deal. Go check out his channel. He said he was going to do a separate video just on this deal that we made. But I want him to tell the story. I don't want to be the one to tell it. But this is what I got out of the deal. This card is in a really weird slab. I don't know if you can see it that well, but it's got like this inner holder within it. It looks kind of weird. And it makes the slab this is a hefty feeling slab. I don't know if it's just something to protect the card because it's a chromium surface. I'm not sure what's going on with this, but it's an Otani Aqua Refractor from 2022 Finest. eBay 1 of 1, 199 of 199. And I'm going to be into that one for $85. Otani numbered gem mint from a chromium brand, under $100. Sounded pretty good to me. So I went ahead and went for it. Didn't have to look it up or anything, just felt that it was a fair price. And again, I was able to help out a friend getting a really cool card for his collection. So that's a win on all sides, I would say. And then this last stack was actually a bundle with the Burrow. So kind of what I did is I say the Burrow as if I only picked up one Burrow. The Hyper Burrow number 2, 175. It was a dealer who actually has a shop up in Delaware, Ohio. I've known these guys for the better part of 10 years. I think I remember going up to their shop for the first time in 2014. They've moved locations since then. I haven't visited the new location, but always great to deal with these guys. And they had a slab value box that I kind of went through early on Thursday. Grabbed that Burrow and kind of figured out what my buddy wanted to be into it at. So these 8 slabs ended up costing me $125, and this is perfect for my showcases at my shows here locally. Let me get a little water before I show you. This is the kind of stuff that I like to sell, and it will fill things up as well. So the first card that I picked up, Aaron Judge, second-year Topps Chrome Purple Refractor out of 299 in a fine 9. I think there's only 110 in this whole stack, so a lot of fine 9s here. Shout out to Mike O on the Joey Votto Gold Allen & Ginter Chrome Refractor, numbered to 50. You know me, I'm a sucker for golds. Here's what I believe is the lone 10, Jonathan India. Kind of a current rumor of trade talk since Cincinnati has a big infield log jam right now. White Sparkle here, SSP from the Panini Rewards packs. Anyone who's familiar with the channel will know that I'm a sucker for these gilded collection. Here's the mini diamond, Barry Larkin, numbered to 50. Also a base Joey Votto out of 99. And then a base Hunter Green out of 199. More gold Votto out of 50. Finest 2022. Also from the same set to round it out, Jonathan India. Orange refractor number 2559. So again, these 8 slabs for $125. Pretty good deal in my opinion. I think that I'll probably end up doubling up on these. And again, it's good filler for my showcases. It's stuff that I know will move well. Stuff from the hometown team. So that was one of my favorite deals of the weekend just because it filled a huge need for me, especially because of how the first few days went where I was constantly moving through the things that I was picking up for myself. But that was it aside from the value box stuff really for pickups. I mean, I got a few cheaper things. And again, I got some custom card autographs from fellow YouTubers. I got some swag from some fellow YouTubers as well. That is currently over in the wash. So those shirts are being washed up to add to my wardrobe collection. But outside of that, those were my pickups. Let me tell you about my experiences at the show. I did capitalize on some on-site grading, and I went through PSA. I know a lot of people were avoiding it because if you're not in the Collectors Club, you were spending $250 minimum to get a card graded. If you are in the Collectors Club, you could do it for $125, but it was only guaranteed by the end of the show, which very well could mean Sunday. So if you're not staying the whole week, it's a bit risky. This card here, I did at the $250 service level for a customer of mine. And I got to say, they did pretty well with this. This is the box that it came in. Kind of seals magnetically there, as you see. So the presentation gets a 10 out of 10 from PSA on that. I'll give them props. They seemed a little disorganized at times, and communication wasn't clear. I was told by Andy, she blinded me with refractors on Wednesday, that PSA wasn't doing like the on-site drop-off, and I think they had also told them at a different time that they wouldn't open until 3:30. I personally went up to their booth and they told me they would open up at 1 o'clock. Keep in mind, general public doesn't open until 3:30. So a couple hours before general public could get in if you had VIP for the sneak preview day. And then it turns out around 11:30, I went up there and a buddy of mine was already at the window and he was dropping off his cards. So I just got in line and was able to drop off mine very quickly after that. So a lot of miscommunications there in terms of that. But otherwise, the grading process was pretty seamless. I got it done pretty quickly. I think it was available for pickup the next day. That is one little thing I have an issue with, is that I paid for end of day. And I mean, I dropped it off on Wednesday and they didn't, I guess that was counted as dropping it off first thing on Thursday morning. So technically they fulfilled it. I thought it would have been back on Wednesday. It's not a big deal. It didn't change anything at the end, but I was definitely a little nervous when they hadn't even logged the card on Wednesday night. Like, did they lose this? Did they misplace it? What's going on? But I woke up the next morning and I saw it reflected on my PSA page. So I was okay with it after that. But what the card was, I was extremely happy for my customer who sent this with me to take the get graded. I was thinking it's probably an 8 or a 9, but we got a 10 on this Brooklyn Collection rookie auto of Acuna. Platinum 101 here, one that I know he's very excited to get added back in his collection. So we'll be able to get that back out to him here early this week. But that was the only on-site grading that I did. A lot of my buddies did it through all the different companies. I heard mixed experiences pretty much on all sides. except for SGC. SGC was the only one where I only heard positive things. So kudos to SGC. You guys know I'm a fan of them. But otherwise, on-site grading seemed to go pretty smoothly overall for most people involved. I mean, like I said, I heard a few bad experiences, but generally speaking, a lot of cool cars ended up getting graded at the show. Let me talk about selling, because this is the one part of it that it's going to make this video sound negative and make it sound like I had a bad time. But I just want to tell you realistically what I experienced on the show floor and kind of what it means for me. And I'm going to tie that into talking about friends and talking about kind of what's next for me going forward. So give me 1 second here. All right. I had to hydrate before we get started. So selling wise, again, I brought a lot of those cards with me. I had one deal that had already been worked out before I got to the National, so I was able to complete that about an hour before the show closed on Tuesday, and also moved quite a few cards of my own that weren't from the consignment. And that was nice to be able to get all that done early on and to know that I was going to have even more money in my uh, in my bankroll for the show to be able to buy some inventory. Now, selling the remaining cards afterwards to dealers proved to be an interesting experience, specifically with the 5 cards. I'm going to pull them back out again that I showed you earlier. In fact, it got to the point where people wanted to see what else I had, and I said, I'm really not interested in selling it just because I think it's going to be a waste of both our times. And again, I don't say that to be rude. It's true, because I could already see the writing on the wall that I was going to get lowballed. But there's 3 cards in particular, I guess technically 4, but 3 in particular that I'm going to focus on. And it's these 3 right here. The 2 Ritter autographs and the Trevor Lawrence out of 5. Let me tell you about the Ritters to start off. So again, these are Pop 1 and Pop 2 respectively. The Blue Ice is a Pop 2. In fact, there was a second one that was graded in between the time that I picked it up from the guy who I was consigning from, and by the time that I got to the show. In fact, I actually saw the everyone posted in a Discord that I was in, and the asking price was right around the same price that we had evaluated this at. So I felt pretty good about that. But going around the show floor, you see all of these really high-end cards. And I mean, there are some insane cards out there, especially, I mean, of course, there's insane vintage cards. It's almost like a huge vintage museum there. But on the ultra modern side, there is some crazy stuff. Like I saw a case of a ton of Prism Football 101s. Like I saw the 2022 Burrow Finite. I think the guys wanted like 20 grand for it. Way above what I would even consider paying for a card like that. Based on the stuff they had, it didn't seem like they were hurting for money, and I have no idea if that is a fair price for that card or not. Regardless, just absolutely insane stuff that I would see. But taking around to different booths, there were a lot of people who were terrified of these cards. And look, I could get it from the perspective of it's Desmond Ritter. Let's be brutally honest here. This is a unproven guy. I watched him play quite a bit just because he played quarterback at UC. That's the local team here. So I have a bit more experience watching him play. I saw some of his highlights with the Falcons last year. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. In fact, if you ask me right now who will win the NFC South, I'll tell you it's going to be the Falcons. I think he's going to have a pretty good season. But the way that his prospecting has gone over the last few months is that his prices right now are so ridiculously high that it reminds me a lot of Davis Mills and Trey Lance, where the only result that could be possible for the people putting money into his cards is failure. Because I just don't see these cards being worth more than they are now, regardless of what he does. Even if he wins the MVP award, I just don't know how much more these things could possibly go up. And again, him winning the MVP, that's a pretty huge ask of a guy like this. I have no idea how well he's going to perform. So I could definitely understand if people were afraid of him for that. And some people were. And again, look, I respect that, especially because if I'm looking at their cases, I'm only offering this to guys who have other high end ritters or they have ultra modern quarterbacks that may not be the most proven. If they just have guys like Burrow and Hurts, then I could understand a bit more that they don't want to mess with this kind of stuff because those two guys have already been to a Super Bowl. But the real reason that a lot of people told me they weren't interested is because there was no data on these cards. Well, what do I mean by no data? Again, pop one, pop two, meaning that there are no sales histories for these cards in PSA 10s. There's really no sales histories for these cards even graded at all by anybody. And there are only a handful of raw sales. Now, a lot of these guys will tell you there's a multiplier on these cards going from PSA 10 to raw is a 3x multiplier, whatever the case may be. Everybody's got their own different system. And look, a multiplier is a good system to work on. I personally don't use them. I kind of just wing it. I can pretty much figure out where I would evaluate a PSA 10 at, and quite frankly, I don't like to pay a multiplier on a PSA 10 if it's a card that I think that I'm only paying up because it's graded a PSA 10 and it's a card that normally I probably wouldn't even grade. But on these cards here, you would see in their showcases similar cards that are multiplied up by their multiplier because they're PSA 10s. And I heard a lot of people say, well, I don't really know if these are worth much more than raw being even being 1010s. But that's not what the cards in their showcase reflected. And I can almost guarantee you that they would be putting these up for 2 to 3x raw prices, $2,000 to $3,000 more than what they would have purchased them from me for if they had ended up making the deal. And that's kind of one of the things that I ran into a lot and the thing that I don't really like as much. And that was especially true on this card. This was the most revealing card of the National for me. And it's not even my card because it really reaffirmed a lot of things that I have thought for a long time, but I just didn't have enough evidence myself. I had kind of seen it in some places, but this card right here proved it to me this week. And that's because there was a sale on that PSA 8 Trevor Lawrence. Excuse me. It was a PSA 9 Trevor Lawrence, the exact same card, also numbered to 5, not the 1 of 5 like I have. It was whatever out of 5. That sold at auction. I think it was on July 3rd. So keep in mind, this is during a holiday weekend for 4th of July. So not the most ideal time to end an auction. I think that was a Monday night. And it sold for $25.56. And I know that because I heard that number thrown at me so many times. And people thought I was out of my damn mind for asking $3,000 or in even some cases $2,500 or even a little less than that, like $2,200, $2,300 on this card because the PSA 9 sold for this. And the reason because is that they can't pay above recent comps or they can't pay recent comps. Now, you all know my thoughts on comps. If you've watched this channel for any period of time, you know that I'm not a huge fan, and part of me kind of keeps it contained, but I'm going to let it rip here. Recent comps to me is several sales over the course of a short period. So usually I would say within the last quarter, the last 90 days, preferably within the last 30 days. And also taking into consideration other factors that may have raised or lowered the cards. For example, Ja Morant sales from 90 days ago probably aren't as reflective of the current market as they are today. And subsequently, Shohei Ohtani sales from 90 days ago aren't representative of the current market today for the other reason, on the other end of the spectrum. You know, Morant down for reasons that we all know. Ohtani up because, well, he's just doing things that no other human being has done in quite some time. And when you put all that together, that's where I feel like your comps can really help you out. But that wasn't the case. I've always suspected that it was always based off of the last sale, regardless of what it was. And the same thing happened with one of the cards that I picked up that I ended up selling. It was a Patrick Mahomes auto out of 5. And that was one of two big cards that I purchased. The other one was a Shohei Ohtani Red Refractor PSA 9. I ended up selling that to my good buddy Eric over at those back pages. He showed it off in one of his recap videos, and I'm very glad that card went to a good friend. But that was not a card that I ended up shopping around. It was just the Mahomes and this Lawrence, where people thought I was crazy because I wouldn't sell below the last sale on this Mahomes that happened in November. This was 8 months ago. He's won a Super Bowl since then, and it's a card numbered to 5. And I was trying to sell it. I put $2,000 on it. It had sold for $1,750 back then. And again, it's a card that's out of 5. And one of the people who thought I was the most insane had a very similar card from another year that was numbered to 10, priced in their showcase at $7,500. And I'm the one who's insane asking for the one out of 5. Also, and theirs wasn't a rookie year card. Let me make that very clear. Theirs was 2019. Mine was 2020. Not a huge difference in my opinion. Again, theirs is out of 10, has an inferior patch. They have 7,500 on it, but I'm the one who's crazy for asking for 2,000. And it reaffirmed to me that these dealers are only looking at one sale one time, and they want to pay 60% of that sale because there's not enough meat on the bone if you sell it for less. And look, if you've got good stuff and you want to sell it below eBay prices and you're going to honor that, where you're going to say like, hey, I'm going to be selling this below eBay prices, I can totally respect and understand that. But a lot of dealers I felt were very self-righteous, where they were pretending that that was what they were doing. But I'll tell you right now, one of the things that I really don't appreciate in a serious manner, if you're joking around, then it is what it is. Like, I'm not super uptight. But one of the things I really don't appreciate on either side of the table is when someone lies straight to my face. And when dealers are telling me, like, I got to sell below eBay prices, I got to sell it below this comp, and they think I'm crazy when I see something that I could literally go buy on eBay right now for half the sticker price of what they have on it, I've got an issue with that. Because that means they're lying directly to my face. You're trying to pretend to me that you're trying to sell these cards at this price when I know you're going to put it in your case for double the last price. Look, man, if you were upfront and honest about it, I would respect that a heck of a lot more than you trying to spin it in this way where you want to take advantage of the situation. And if you think that I'm BSing you on that, it happened during the show. I saw it happen. This guy was all chummy with me on a card that I was asking $450 for. Last sale on it was $500. And it's a guy who is extremely popular. He told me he has to be at 4 because he's got a price of below that $500 mark. He was being all chummy and friendly with me. I go back the next day. It's like I never existed. And sure enough, I see that same card in his case for $600 sticker. So there is some. Sorry about that dog barking. There is, like I said, I'm not just making this stuff up. It's because I actually see it happening. I mean, this guy lied straight to my face, telling me that he asked to put it out for less than this. Like, that was never his intention, and I can tell you that. And look, if you're upfront and honest about it, and I can see it in your case that you're going to put it out for more. I mean, when I buy stuff from people, like, yeah, I want to be below the last sale too. Everybody does. But I'm not entitled to that price, nor is anybody else entitled to the price of the last sold. You're entitled to the lowest price that's currently available on the market right now, within reason, of course. And that to me was, it really just reaffirmed a lot of things that I thought. And look, there are a lot of guys out there, again, who do price their stuff in line with that. And I have no problem with that because I know that they're keeping their word. But when you sit there and you lie straight to my face that you're going to be doing this, and then I hear you complaining about how you're having a slow show or it hasn't been that good for you, gee, I wonder why. I wonder why when you're trying to buy stuff and you're asking me to come up to your table to sell you stuff, and you want to offer me half of what it's worth or 60% of what it's worth and then mark it up to 300%. And if I try to use the same logic on your cards, well, and whenever they start the sentence with well, usually it means it's going to be something that completely contradicts what they said. And there were a few times that I had just had enough. And I just tried to make my point. I'll tell you the story. So there was this card right here. Again, the Lawrence. I had told this guy I want 2,300 on it. He thought I was absurd because this card of the most popular player in football, number to 5 of a brand. Look, this is not illusions. No disrespect to anybody who likes illusions. This is not Score. No disrespect to anybody that likes Score. I don't have a problem with those products. This is Optic. It is one of the most sought after brands in the ultra modern football market. It is a card numbered to 5 of the best player in the set, and it's arguably the hottest name in the football market right now. It is a card that you will not see pop up for sale too often going forward. When these things get into collections, or even if they all 5 have even been opened, I mean, there's a very real possibility of how much of that stuff they make that all 5 aren't even out in circulation yet. Some of them are still sealed away in packs. By the way, that over-under looking pretty good for the over right now if you took the over in this recap video. But he thought I was absolutely insane for asking even below what the last one sold for. And that was an auction too. These people will try to tell you that the auction comps don't really count when it's their stuff, of course. But when it's your stuff, then it really matters, doesn't it? But then he has this card. Sorry, again, I got dogs barking in the background. He's got this card that is numbered to 25. I can literally go buy it on eBay right now for half the price of what he has it stickered at. And I tell him straight up that, like, look, I'm interested in these 2 cards, but this one right here, you've got 130 on it. I can literally go buy it right now for 145. And this one here, you've got 75 on it. I can go buy it right now for 30. I will give you, I think I offered him like 80 for the pair or something like that. I will give you 80 for the pair on these. And he tells me, no, I won't sell it for below this amount, which was basically 2 to 2.5 times what I was offering him. And I told him, like, so let me get this straight. You won't go based off of a myriad of sales. Because, again, these were cards that have sold several times within the last 90 days. I'm talking like 4 to 5 times on one of them and then probably like 8 to 10 times on the other one. So something that I'm going off of multiple data points. I'm averaging it out on all these cards. In fact, I'm giving them top dollar based on what the other ones have sold for. On one of the cards, I was giving him more than any has ever sold for before. And I tell him, like, look, so you're telling me that I'm insane for asking this on my card number to 5, but on your card that has a lot more sales, I'm out of my mind for asking you to for making an offer that's around the price of what I could actively go buy one for right now. And he just told me I have other customers to help. And that summed up my experience at a lot of different tables. But I'm tired of it. I really am tired of it because it's this game where, look, I'll play the game with you, but it has to be fair on both sides. And no, I'm not saying this because I'm entitled to this price. I just don't appreciate that. I'm calling a spade, all right? I want it to be fair on both sides. And I understand that I'm dealing with other dealers. I'm not the one who's set up. I'm approaching them just as a customer, as a buyer, in a sense, even though I sell cards full time. That doesn't matter to them, nor do I make that their problem. But when you're using these same rules to sell your own cards, but you won't use that same theory when you're trying to then buy them, it just doesn't fly with me. I have a problem with it. If you disagree with it, you're entitled to your own opinion, and I respect your own opinion. But that is just the way that I view it. And to me, it's hypocritical. There was another guy who, this one is a trip, and I referenced it earlier in the video. This guy has a deal going on, and I'm waiting for him to finish up his deal because I was referred to him to try to sell some other cards that I thought he might be interested in based on what he has in his showcase. And he's working this out with this guy, and he says, I like to consider the totality of the market, direct quote. And I think, okay, this is a guy who I can work with. He says he wants to consider the totality of the market. And again, he's interested in this card right here. Well, wouldn't you know it? He pulls up the one sale to Trevor Lawrence, and he's going based off of that sale. Okay. So he doesn't really look at the totality of the market, look at what's available. And this is a guy who has tons of low numbered stuff, high end cards that are in the same vein as this one, even higher end stuff. We're talking 5-figure cards here. He's got some serious money on his table and some serious cards on this table. It's a guy who I feel like would kind of know what you have to do to get some of these cards sometimes. These higher end cards is that sometimes you have to pay above market value. And that doesn't mean that you can't sell it above that. Like if I had this card, for example, if I had this card out of my showcase and someone wanted to quote the last sale, I would tell them like, look, I understand that. This is a very in-demand card. It's numbered to 5. If you can find one that is around that price currently available for sale, I would offer it to you for a little bit less than what they have it for, because I price my stuff within reason based on what is currently available, not based on what was available. Like I said, if it's a card that's numbered to 25 or something, they all consistently sell for $50, but the cheapest one available is $2,000. I'm not going to put mine out there for $1,000. I'll probably put it at $75. Again, the thing with comps is that if everybody paid 80% of the last one, eventually it would go to zero and all cards would be worthless. Someone has to pay more. But a lot of people feel that they're entitled to pay 80%. Like a lot of the things I bought, I didn't pay 80% for. I bought them for even above what the last one sold for. But I just know that they're worth more than what the last one sold for. That one sale is not the defining narrative for that card. I do it often. I'm not going to do it on every card. And if it's something that's extremely common, I'm definitely not going to do it, because chances are there's a cheaper one out there on the market right now. But on stuff that's a little bit more scarce, and if it's a good quality card, then yeah, I will pay a premium on it, because I know what I can get out of it. And if I don't get it right away, that's no big deal. I don't need to flip it tomorrow. I can hold on to it. I can have it in my showcase. I could even say that I have it in my collection if I really wanted to. And I don't have a problem with that, and I have the capacity to do that at this stage in my journey. Well, continuing on with that story is that this guy, I come back later, and I think, you know what? I think I could still get a deal done, because if he wants to just consider this one sale, I'm willing to do that, but it's got to be the same way both sides. Like if you've got cards out there too, I'm going to want them for what the last sale price was too. Will you just go based off of that? Sure, we'll work out a deal. But all of a sudden, when I tell him that this card that he's got at 1,400, the last sale on this is 1,050, and that's higher than all the other ones. Look, I'm willing to give you a little bit more than even what the last sale was, but if we go based off of these numbers, I feel like this would be a pretty fair trade straight up. You're getting a card that you value a couple $100 more above what the last sales were on these two. So you're getting, in my opinion, the best card of the deal, and you're moving 2 lower end cards and getting a card that I think has the biggest ceiling compared to the other two. They were 2 Jamar Chase cards. And I'll tell you right now, as much as I love Jamar, I'd rather have a card like this. And all of a sudden, what do I hear first? Well, and like I said, as soon as you hear well, it's usually a sign that things are going to go south. And all of a sudden, the last sale on those Jamars didn't necessarily apply to his cards. Again, I don't have a problem if you want to go just based on the last sale. I personally don't do that. I'm not going to go based off of one sale one time and use that as my only determinant to determine the value of a card, because it takes no other context into mind. And if I did that, I would have lost out on some of the best deals that I've ever gotten. But he didn't want to do it like that, so I walked away. I ended up purchasing a card from him later, and again, like I said, I sold that card. Won't go into the details of it, but I made a 25% ROI on his card within the several hours. So I guess in the end of the day, it worked out, and my time spent at the table was worth it. But it was also worth it in the hidden curriculum that kind of took place during this recap. During this show, where it was very apparent that some of the biggest dealers there, some of the guys with the most money in their pocket, were very scared of these cards, and they only take into consideration the last comp on a card. And I've suspected this all along. When people say recent comps, that's not what they mean at all. What they mean is the last sale, regardless of any other context. Now, I'm sure there are some out there who do take other things into consideration, but my experience, not every single time, but the vast majority of the time was the last sale, the last time, spun to fit whatever their narrative was to try to pay probably 60% of the value, if not even lower, like 50% of the value. And again, these are some of the biggest dealers, guys who have been in the game for a really long time. And that shocked me because when I go and I see how these guys do things, I want to learn from them. I don't know it all. In fact, I know very little probably compared to a lot of these guys who have been doing it for a long time. And it's very clear that if they've been doing it for a long time, they must be doing something right. But in a lot of cases, what I was seeing was just, it was mind blowing to me. And I've always been intimidated. I always thought those guys were way out of my league and I would never be able to set up at the national because, well, I just don't have the manpower to compete with these guys and I don't have the resources that these guys do. But that experience, it showed me one thing. I can do it. And not to sound arrogant, but I think I can do it better. So come 2024 in Cleveland, my goal is to set up at the show. And I've already talked to a couple people about it. I've already kind of figured out who I would want to contact about possibly subletting some space of their booth. I would not get my own booth of my own. I would just sublet probably a table of someone's booth. But mark my words, my goal for 2024 is I will be a vendor at the Cleveland National. I'm making that promise to myself, and hopefully I'm making that promise to all of you here. But let the record reflect that I'm here to stay, and I'm coming for Cleveland in 2024. So, but overall, a few aggravating experiences aside, I couldn't have asked for a better national. It went better than expected for me. I had an idea of what I wanted to do. I accomplished all of it and then some as well. And I have to say, I wouldn't have been able to do it without some of the people I met and also some of my friends. I know I talked about a few sour experiences I had, but I had some fantastic experiences with dealers who I was meeting for the very first time, and also dealers who I've done business with many times before here locally at shows. And all the guys who I've done deals with before, it is no surprise to me that they all told me that they were having a fantastic show. And I cannot tell you how happy I am for them just because like I said, I've known these guys for a while. I've seen them set up at smaller shows and kind of work circuits that are closer to home. And they're great guys, great dealers, and I wish nothing but the best for them. And like I said, I genuinely could not be happier that they had as much success as they did at this show. And also the people I met. I mean, there were a lot of dealers who I didn't even make a deal with, but I just chatted with them. I didn't even buy anything. I didn't even sell anything, but I just talked with them. They were some fantastic people, some just in general, just some fantastic human beings based on some of the stories that we shared with one another. And that part of it was phenomenal. I love networking. I love meeting new people, especially kind of growing my circle. And I felt that I was able to do that a bit here at this show. And like I said, I know I mentioned a few bad eggs, and I know I mentioned kind of some of my experiences and difficulties with the whole comp thing, and kind of just how I see it differently, I guess, than a lot of people. But I don't want that to detract from the fact that this was an amazing show with a lot of amazing people that I met, especially at the trade nights too. I mean, I heard a couple of people tell me this. There was one guy who I did several deals with, and he said something that made me feel really good. He told me that I was the easiest person that he had worked with all weekend. And that to me, it made me feel really good because I try to be easy to work with. I try to be pleasant. I try to understand both sides and make sure everybody walks away happy when they make a deal with me. And everybody who I met at the trade nights and stuff, just great. I mean, they would hype up your cards. They would tell you how nice the stuff you had, even if they weren't interested in buying any of it. Just incredibly nice, incredibly polite, and very supportive. It was about as close to a community as you could possibly say. And I mean, I know that the black boxes kind of get some stigma around it, but hey, some of the black box boys are all right. Some of the flippers out there, they're all right. I just wanted to put that out there. I thought it was funny, but yeah, a lot of quality people at the trade nights, of all ages, backgrounds, collecting habits, budgets, however you want to categorize it. And then there's the people that I already knew. I did get to meet, people who I knew of course. So I did the filming for Mike Baseball Collector's interview with Dick Perez, and that was a really cool experience to be able to meet him. My buddy Card Cutter, he'll probably say this in his recap video if he hasn't already done one already. But I met Gary Vee a couple of times down in the lobby. He was staying at the same hotel as us, and I had some fun interactions with him. And he was a super cool guy. And it was one of the highlights of the National for sure, especially in the early days when I ran into him down there, and couldn't have been a cooler guy to meet. So there was the guys who I knew of, and also, of course, the YouTubers out there who I knew of. Like I mentioned, Eric Oakland's 915, who has been a friend of mine for years, but I've never met him in person before. And there was a lot of that, a lot of guys who I've never actually met in person, or it's been probably since the 21 National, or even in some cases since the 2019 National, that I've got to see these people again. And to get reacquainted or to meet in person for the first time was a huge highlight for me. And of course, there's my friends who I've known for years now, and they're they're with me every National, and their words of encouragement, um, just being able to hang out with them, debrief with them, come back into the room and rant, and cool down when I got a little heated, or I just felt really exhausted, and just shoot the bull with them and hang out with them. And they know who they are. I don't want to name a bunch of specific names. I know I already named some, but I I would be remiss because I'd probably miss out on a few names. But they know who they are, and genuinely from the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who I met and interacted with during the entire week in Chicago, because I took something away from every single experience, and I wouldn't do anything different. I really wouldn't. I know that I said a couple of things didn't necessarily go the way I planned. Some of the purchases I made, I took a little bit of a hit on. I'm talking like a $20 hit, maybe on something here or there. It happens. You don't win every single time. As long as you win more than you lose, you keep on keeping on. But it wouldn't have been as special without the people there. Everybody says it, right? It's about the people. I genuinely do mean that. And they made the National special. The cards are one thing, the people is what makes it what it is. With that being said, that is my recap. An hour in, figure it's about time to cut it off. But what's ahead? There's really two big takeaways that I wanted to kind of put out there. The first one being that I am, like I said, fully intending on setting up at the 2024 National in Cleveland. I'm going to sublet a table space. I have a few things in mind, and who knows how the next year will shake out. But that is 100% the plan. And I'm making that commitment to myself to put myself in a position to do it where it would make sense for me. And I don't take a huge bath on the costs that come with setting up at the National. So that is my long-term goal right now, is to be able to set up in 2024 and maybe even beyond. But expect your boy there behind the table in Cleveland. And then the second part of it is, you might notice I didn't take too much footage of the show floor. And for as much as I did selling wise, I didn't do as much buying wise. And there's a big reason for that, is because in about 2 weeks from now, I am going to go in on a collection with two very close friends of mine. And it's going to be the largest collection that I've ever taken on. I don't even know the full scope of it yet. I don't really know exactly what I'm getting myself into. I have a general idea. I've talked to a few friends about it, but I don't know if it's really public knowledge at this point. I'm sure as we get closer to it and as it unfolds, more and more of it will come out. But I'm planning on recording a lot of that experience and sharing it with you, because I think I can do it well. I think it's a story worth telling. And I want to do more with that. I want to take you a bit more behind the scenes here as I start my road to Cleveland. And I want this to be the biggest year of growth for me. I kind of consider my years not calendar years, but rather the space in between national events. That's kind of how I measure my growth. And this is the one where I'm stepping into the batter's box and I'm ready to swing for the fences. This is not a lemonade stand. This is not a little side hustle for me. This is the path I've chosen, and I'm here to stay. I'm ready to take the swing. So hopefully you'll come along for the journey with me. But like I said, that's coming up in a couple of weeks. I don't expect to be too active over the next couple of weeks as I kind of rest and recover from the show and also get prepared for what lies ahead here. Just doing some things that probably aren't too exciting to make a video on. I have a couple of shows that I'll be set up at and selling. I'll do some buying there as well. And I'll chronicle those experiences, but generally speaking, I kind of have my eyes set on 2 weeks from today as of the time I'm recording this. Look forward to sharing that with you. But until next time, that will tie up the knot on the 2023 National in Chicago. It was a great time. Next one will be even bigger. Take care, stay safe, be kind.